Moms for Liberty really worked miracles.
We have a crisis in America in public education. This is the future of our kids and our country.
You are joyful warriors.
And we are just getting started. Good morning and Happy New Year. It is 2026. I am Tina Deskovich, the CEO and co-founder of Moms for Liberty, and this is the Fire of Liberty show. It's our first time back with you in the new year. We are excited to be here. Amy is over there running the controls and the mics and the screens, and she's doing a great job getting us set up this morning. We have some big milestones this year. I'm sure you know by now, but this is the 250th anniversary of the United States of America. And Moms for Liberty has some really big plans this year. We are getting ready to announce and unfold some of them over the next few weeks. And then I believe February 2nd will be really big announcements. I just spent the last few days in Dallas with Glenn Beck and some others out there, American Journey Experience, Mercury One people. And Moms for Liberty is going to be partnering with them in a big way in upcoming months and years. And we are excited to share some of those things with you in the very near future. Another milestone this year, believe it or not, Moms for Liberty is 5 years old this month. And our haters from the very beginning said we would never make it. They called us everything from worthless, nothing bunch of moms to crazy people that wanted to kill kids. We were called every name in the book. I will not repeat them here. But on a much more serious note, the attacks that came to Moms for Liberty right out of the gate were unheard of. And I don't think Americans really know what we went through as an organization. Ordinary moms and dads, the haters from the beginning said that we were well organized in the beginning, that we were funded by the Koch brothers with big dark money. To this day, I've never met a Koch brother or received a dollar from them in this organization. They tried to slander us in every way possible, and it never really made sense to us. We didn't really care and stop to try to figure it out. We just knew the mission of defending parental rights, protecting our kids, improving education in America that is failing is so vital and so important that we just stayed mission focused. And I just want to recap for a minute here what we've been through in the last 5 years. Right out the gate, we could not even use technology tools that everyone else in America were able to use. PayPal froze every dollar we had just a few months into our opening. We couldn't choose any bank we wanted. We had to choose a bank that wouldn't freeze our assets because that's what was going on in America at that time. We couldn't use ordinary email servers or contact management systems. We had to figure out how to find the money to buy off-shelf, custom-built things, which is not cheap. We had to vet every single software system that we used to make sure they wouldn't steal our data, capture us, shut us down. We were kicked off of Facebook with our groups numerous times. Our account was locked on X for saying that you got it, boys were boys and girls are girls. This was just, within the first, I'd say 24 months, these things were happening to us. And in no time flat, the entire force of the United States government, United States of America, came after the small little organization. The DOJ created a threat tag and used the Patriot Act to come after us. The FBI was making follow-up calls to moms and dads speaking at school board meetings. The White House, we now know through FOIA requests, was having meetings with the leads of teachers unions and the Southern Poverty Law Center to make plans of attacks to come after our tiny little mom organization that was growing very fast. Can you imagine what we have been through? The cyber attacks are endless and still ongoing. Anonymous, if you've heard of them, they're an international cyber attack organization, created these dark videos with face masks saying they were coming after Moms for Liberty. They took down our servers. The things I had to do that people don't even understand, scrubbing my laptop, my phones, having to drive to different cities to buy new phones, not connect them to a Wi-Fi anywhere because we were under attack from so many angles. This is what the first 5 years of Moms for Liberty was like. And here we are 5 years later, standing strong, and look at what you have accomplished. We are in 48 states, 300 chapters, 130,000 activists, and growing. This past year, our membership grew by 15%, our email list by 20%, 100 bills signed into law in 22 states from our legislative committees. That is remarkable. Under the circumstances that I just laid out for you, it's remarkable. Over 500 school board races won. Yes, there's 13,000 school districts in the country. We are up against the national teachers unions with hundreds of millions of dollars. Our budget is nowhere near that. These moms and Moms for Liberty are a mighty force to be reckoned with. We are not slowing down. We are not stopping. We have huge plans for 26, 27, and now 28. We are stabilizing as an organization. We are growing up as an organization. We are implementing policies, procedures, strategic plans, bringing on the right team members to move us forward. And so I say to all of our haters that I hope you're watching this, because the first 5 years, you haven't seen anything yet. And so welcome officially to the Fire of Liberty show. I know that was an intense opening monologue, but I've had a lot to think about these last couple weeks over the break. And so in our usual fashion, we are bringing you the front line warriors to this show so you could hear their stories, how they got started, what they're seeing in America, what inspires and motivates them. And today we're kicking off the year with Rachel Wilson Snyder. She is our chapter chair in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. She's excited to be in sunny Florida in January. And I just want to welcome you to the show, Rachel. We're so glad to have you here.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, we're going to have a great conversation today because Rachel has over 20 years, has been serving as a licensed mental health counselor. She was earlier, right before the show, I was like, is it 20 years? She's like, well, 25, but I've only been a licensed this and splitting hairs. So 25 years in the industry, I think is what we came up with, at least 20 years as a licensed mental health counselor. And so you may be asking, what does that have to do with the work Moms for Liberty is doing? Well, it turns out it has everything to do with it because, there's a lot of her skill set that she has brought to the fight and to this organization. But what we want to focus on today and what we titled this episode is identity crisis. And because we are in an identity crisis in America in so many ways. But you've experienced with identity crises with individuals. And so I kind of want to talk about that a little bit because we're seeing identity crises in many, many ways in America. So, and you're the expert. And so I have an expert that's a chapter chair who's here. And so tell me a little bit about what is an identity crisis? Like what brings that about? What happens in development that allows people to be in identity crises?
Sure. So I like to look at Erik Erikson's stages of development. They come through the lifespan. They start at birth and they go the whole way through death. And so there's a few stages that are earlier than what we're talking about specifically here today, which is more the teenage years and also the elementary school years. But briefly, even at birth, we're learning a basic sense of trust versus mistrust. That's the first stage. And these stages are cumulative. So as we're coming through and we go through, pre-K and some other stages, we come into elementary school where we're really looking at a sense of industry versus inferiority. What am I good at? Am I good at something? What am I industrious at? And so we're building that sense of self-esteem and competence in industry in elementary school. So some of those seeds get planted very early. And then, of course, in middle school and high school, the main task switches from, what am I good at? What can I do? Can I run the 50-yard dash really fast? Those boys that can do that are so, full of esteem. So once we get into middle school, everything switches to our friends, our social life, because we're figuring out our sense of identity and who we are. And hopefully we have a positive infrastructure, positive constructs beneath that. Hopefully we receive positive messages from our parents, from our schools, from our culture that teach us that we are worthy of good self-esteem and we have a good identity. And we come from a place and from people that, not saying they're perfect. I know the critics like to throw that out, doesn't mean anyone's perfect. But, think about your own child and what you would speak over them and what you would share with them. We always tell, for example, divorced parents, don't bash the other parent, because that child, their identity, they come from that other parent. They're half that other parent. So as they're coming into this task where the main task is who am I and how do I fit into society, it is the most important time of life. And as I was sharing before, the stages are cumulative. So you want to have a healthy sense of who you are and some good things that you can point to have a good sense of self-esteem for who you are, where you come from, where you fit, where you belong. And I don't know if you want me to go into it yet, but what we found was that, or what I found was that for various reasons, I think nefarious reasons, some of the really good content about what makes us great as a nation, as a people, and who we are is being whitewashed. It's being pulled from the textbooks and from the conversations at school. So.
Yeah, I definitely want to go there, but I do want to focus a little bit more on making this comparison. And so a child has gone through these development stages, and you said as parents, we pour into them positive reinforcements. We try to point out their good skills and their talents, and we drive them to soccer and buy the clarinet and
what industry versus impurity. Yeah. What am I confident at? What am I good at?
Drug a free piano off of Facebook Marketplace and put it in my house at one point so Braden could learn the piano. The things that we moms do. What happens to a child who doesn't have the positive reinforcements, doesn't figure out who they are in that phrase? What does that look like to be a healthy adult, or even a healthy teenager and then adult?
Yeah. Well, what matters most is that the stages are cumulative. So if you don't successfully navigate through the main task of one stage, it can definitely impact your likelihood and ability to continue to navigate through the next stage as you're coming through life. So it's going to leave you behind the eight ball. So you're in a bad situation.
If you're told as a child, you're awful, you're bad, you're terrible, your parents are terrible, your grandparents were terrible, you come from nothing, like these are the things that you're hearing, just on a human level.
Yeah.
What does that do to them?
I mean, think about what you just said, and a child's receiving that kind of a message that you're bad, who you are is bad, where you come from is bad. I don't know about you, but I would never speak that over my child. I'm going to sow into them. It comes from love, and you want to have people who love you and love your child, teaching them and sending them positive messages, because there's no good parent who wants to speak very harsh, negative things into their child. It's going to hurt them.
What you say hurt them? I'm trying to get you to express a little bit, what do you deal with these people all day long?
Yeah.
These people you deal with individuals that may have had this kind of childhood spoken into them and over them and taught to them, and they're now adults. What does their adult life look like if they haven't done the work to fix and better themselves?
Heaping pile of anxiety, I would say. There is not that the infrastructure is unstable within them, and they don't have the coping skills and the problem solving skills that, as we're coming through these earlier stages with a positive sense of identity and a positive sense of, what we're good at and who we are and what's good about us and where we belong. If we don't have these positive affiliations and internal sense of ourself, then we're not likely to do as well in the next stage of life. Which in your 20s and 30s, you're figuring out, can I have relationships with other people? Can I build a relationship that lasts? And can I, start a family? Can I have these wonderful things? And if the prior infrastructure isn't there, it just keeps falling apart more and more. And that person is just left riddled with anxiety. They don't know who they are. They don't feel like they have a good sense of what should I be doing? It's kind of like, when they say, what is truth? If you don't know what truth is, when you're trying to navigate through the world, it's like you're rock climbing and you don't have anything to hold on to, and you just start sliding down the wall. And that's what anxiety feels like when they're having a panic attack, when they're going into that terrified state, and it's not good for them.
So I would say there's an epidemic of anxiety and mental health issues in America. Yeah. I mean, they have knocked at our family's door pretty hard with my children. And, I've done everything I can to try to give them a stable foundation. And so people are looking and grasping everywhere, and not that you and I are going to solve it completely today, but I'm I'm looking forward to this conversation because you are an expert in this area in human development, in what this looks like. And I think it translates perfectly to America and what we're seeing. It's the 250th anniversary of our country.
Yay.
We have made it a long way.
Yay.
And it is my prayer that we continue to, add on another 250
250
years.
more. And
But
then some.
I think you and I are on the same page, and we believe there's some nefarious forces out there trying to make sure we don't make it to 251 or 252.
Yeah.
And it's very similar to the destabilizing of a child and pouring negativity into them. And I want you to share, because I think you have a very specific moment in time where your professional training, the light bulb went off on what's happening in America. Can you share that with everyone right now?
Sure. So a few years back, prior to COVID, I had been connecting more with the material from Wall Builders. Never knew that someday, I would be in Texas through
Wall Builders.
Later.
Wall Builders is our good friends, David and Tim Barton.
Yes.
And I think it's wallbuilders.com if you want to go visit and learn more. I think Tim is launching a new podcast series, Storytelling of American History. I think it launches today.
I think so. I got a notification on my phone.
I'm excited. Yeah, I want to go listen to that. So go check that out.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
It's okay. No. So I had got into their materials just on my own, exploring as a person and a parent. I was learning my American history. I was, just completely in love with everything I was hearing. I was beginning to think, why am I hearing some of this for the first time? That was starting to dawn on me. And, as God would have it, the very day that I was reading and learning the Mayflower Compact through Wall Builders, my son came home from school. And we're having the typical, what did you do in school today? What did you learn? So we're having that conversation. And he says, oh, well, you learned the Mayflower Compact today. And I thought, that's amazing, because I learned that too, at home. And I thought, how does that happen? How does that timing happen? And I said, isn't it amazing? Isn't it so beautiful how they put God first? How as soon as they, got off that boat and hit soil and they came out, they put God first. And he started to look at me with this like deer in the headlights. Like, what are you talking about?
That's not what I learned today.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, wait, I said, what did you learn? And he says, well, it's just like an agreement between some people that they're going to work together to govern themselves amongst themselves together.
Did he say some people, or did he say the first people that came to America? I mean, what?
I mean, I think he knew it was the Pilgrims getting off the Mayflower,
Okay.
So he knew that it was, this is our kind of the foundations of our early American history.
Did they read the actual Mayflower Compact? I think that would be my number one question.
That's the key. And if I can say anything to America, I would say read source documents. Absolutely. They did not. And that's what I said to him. I said, did you read it yourself? Because I was like, they get into how, they came here for the glory of God. And, they really wanted to further the Christian faith. And it says that as the primary reason they came here to America, what they came for and to do, and that they were agreeing to govern themselves under that. And of course, he's looking at me. He has no idea. And I said, did you read it?
It's so nefarious and insidious when you, and I love that you said, how did that happen? That I had the same lesson as my son this specific day.
That same day.
Well, but God, that's how that happened. And so this is a fantastic story. I do believe. So continue. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. So I asked him, did you read it for yourself? And after his deer in the headlights, I could see the wheels starting to turn. And he said, no, you know what? I didn't actually get to read it. They told me what it said.
Yeah.
There's your red flag right there.
Mm-hmm.
So I encourage everyone, read it for yourself. Look for yourself. See what it says. It's for you. It is your American history. It is yours. And no one should ever take that from you. And to do so, to whitewash it, it's a crime or a sin or something. It's up there.
And
this belongs to the people.
One of the things we get accused of, to go back to my opening monologue, is that we are trying to whitewash history. It's so crazy that they accuse you of the very things that's being done
Yeah.
by the people that are
Yeah.
accusing us of
The
of
ironclad law of projection.
Yeah.
Again, it comes true every time.
from
Yes.
your expert opinion. From your expert opinion.
That's projection.
I just want to
Yeah.
add to this. So when my son, who's 24 now, was in, I think 7th or 8th grade, are you familiar with DBQs?
Mm.
Parents, are you familiar with DBQs? It's all at least it was. I mean, he's 20, so 10, 15 years ago now.
Mhm.
I hope they've gotten away from them. Data-based questioning,
Oh, okay. That sounds,
yeah, it's probably what your son read that day, because he was working on a project, needed to write an essay. I can't remember what it was, but he's, Mom, come in here. I go in there, and he had a small section of the Gettysburg Address, like 5 lines. And he had that, and he knew it ish, and he had to answer all these questions about it. And we got through 5, 6 questions, and I realized he had absolutely no idea what he was talking about or doing. And I was like, this is the Gettysburg Address. Yes, I know. Do you know what that is? No.
Yeah, there's no context.
There's
they
no
often pluck stuff out of context, and you lose the whole meaning.
Do you know why this was given?
Yeah.
Well, the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln, like no real in-depth understanding of what the whole document was, why it was giving. It was part, like, I don't even know if he knew it was part of the time period, America. Like, he knew nothing surrounding it at all.
Yeah.
And that was my big light bulb. Well, I had several of them. There was another Christopher Columbus one with him, probably that same year. But it is the dismantling of American history happening right before our eyes.
That's exactly right. And we're just saying, leave it here. Tell the people the truth. Let them know the truth. It's theirs. It belongs to the people, and it needs to be shared with them. And it's not anyone's place to intervene and take that from the citizens.
I think you eloquently put that. And so to compare it to the opening story that we were talking about with what it means to a human when their identity is being destabilized. That's the word. How, like, what, that's one single story. What else is happening in America? What do we see? What are we looking at that is destabilizing our American identity right now? And why? Why is it happening? I think would be a good question. Who is making it happen?
Yeah.
And what are some examples of it, you think?
Well, another great example for myself, my personal favorite, and this is the one that this is part of my why and my background story, goes back to source documents again. And through Wall Builders, really appreciate them and everything they've done to preserve American history. But I, through Wall Builders, was reading the George Washington's Thanksgiving Day Proclamation, and it is the most beautiful document. And I was stunned just from the first, just from the start, from the first word, again, God right at the top. And as I'm reading, and he's talking about our duty as a nation to be thankful to God for his protection and his providence and his hand on us, and to be thankful for that. And then we have a duty as citizens once a year to come together and pause and stop and pray and be thankful to God for what he's done for us. It wasn't just to be thankful to whoever, wherever, and duty. They talk a lot about duty, the founding fathers. There's some virtues in that I picked up in my identity as, wait a second, this is where I come from. I come from these people who cared about duty and about doing what was right. And that's where a lot of your chapter chairs come in, I think, with that we want to do our duty to our country and what needs to be done. But I did digress a little. So back to the document, that was the first time that I had realized that I had been lied to, that our history was actually being removed and being whitewashed.
The Thanksgiving Proclamation?
Yes. And I just started, tears just pouring out, because I had been told that George's faith was really in question, that it was highly debatable, that at best he was agnostic, that he might have been some kind of deist, but certainly not the Christian faith. When you read, and I would say, read the founding fathers in their own words. Don't let anyone else tell you what they say or what they believe. Read it in their own words so that you can receive it and understand your identity as an American. And I was reading some of his prayers just the other week, and it was very clear. Anyone who says his faith is in question, let George tell you his faith in his prayers, and it is very clear that he follows the Christian faith.
I love this conversation for so many reasons, because it's at the core who and what Moms for Liberty is. The very first Moms for Liberty meetings were Madison meetups, which weren't called that at the time. They were in my home. They were Life, Liberty, and Chocolate. If you've listened to the story, that's what we called our little Facebook group.
Chocolate goes well with everything.
Of course, yeah. Well, everybody had to bring something chocolate, and then we would share it. And we started reading the Declaration of Independence, the founding document, in 2020.
Yeah.
And then we moved on to the Constitution, but it ended up being like a book club. And that has led to our Madison Meetup program, which, by the way, for America 250, we're revamping and relaunching, which we're very excited about. We are going to be producing a Madison Minute book for the quotes from the actual founders, because right now, it's crazy. You're like, give me a quote, Chat GPT from George Washington. They'll give you 100 quotes, and only 2 are actually from George Washington. And so you can't
source documents.
You can't find the truth on the internet. So we're going to do that legwork to make sure it's from a source document. I think it's very important. So it's very near to our heart to preserve American history. And maybe I didn't even understand why when we started this. And over the last 5 years, it's starting to unfold why it's so important, and it's this identity. So let's talk a little bit about some of the negative things that have been pouring into children about American identity. And I'll start, because when Braden, my 24-year-old, also was in middle school, he brought home a project that was, he got 100% plus on, and a good job from the teacher. And it was a wanted poster for Christopher Columbus for crimes against humanity. And that was my very first moment that actually ended up me running for school board and getting involved in a lot of things, because I had that moment of, have I been lied to? Was Christopher Columbus a war criminal? Is he a horrible human? Like, what is happening here? And it led me down finding some of his original documents that he wrote, books. I every book I could find, I ordered. I was desperate for truth and information and reading. And he very much felt guided by God to go on that journey and to watch what they were doing in schools. And I went back and looked at that thing a year or 2 ago, and I noticed more problems with it that I didn't even notice out the gate, because I saved the little poster, and it said wanted by Queen Elizabeth, which would have been out of England. And he came out of Spain. Like it was an epic fail on every account. And he had like 105 on it, and a good job, and
and it's not a lick of it's true.
It was if that's what our kids are learning in school. And I live in Florida, in a very red county, in a pretty conservative school district. What is happening in Chicago? Well, we know, because no one can read or write in Chicago or in some of these bigger cities, Baltimore, failing miserably. So what other types of things do we know about in general that are happening, you think, in schools right now? That what are they being taught that's like the pouring in of a parent saying you're a bad person, and your parents are bad and your grandparents are bad? What are we seeing?
Well, I know for my son, or for one of my sons, the most convincing thing was what he found himself in school. After COVID hit, we all had this similar kind of experience of, parent over shoulder behind the laptop, starting to notice stuff, starting to realize things were wrong. And I was talking to him about some of that, and I think he just felt like it probably wasn't that bad or that extreme. He was in
the kids think we're overreacting all the time. Mom, you're so embarrassing. It's not a big deal. It's not happening.
Yes. And so he had a few concerns here or there. A book they had read once was The Scarlet Ibis, and that was kind of concerning that they just presented that to him with the social emotional learning stuff and the way that they did, because he actually does have a special needs brother. In that book, it's very dark and questionable about if a brother offs the other brother.
Oh my gosh.
So we talked about that, and we worked through that, and he felt like, some things were off, but he wanted to stay in school and finish it out, and just kind of minimizing, okay, it's not that bad. I'll get through it. I'll just go through the hallways to math class and then to lunch, and I'll just go through it. And that's kind of where he was at with his headspace with it. And Then one day I get this urgent text message from the library from him. And he was like, Mom, I got to talk to you. This is important. I'm like, what's up? And he's like, I found something and I'm really upset. And I was like, what is it? And he's like, I'm in the religion, philosophy, theology section. And there's a queer second edition is in with all this stuff. And he's like, I pulled it out and he's like, Mom, this really isn't okay. And he's like, he said, is this what you've been fighting?
Mm.
And I was like, yeah. Sorry.
It's okay. We got tissues over here. The goal of every episode is to invoke a chapter chair to tears. So you just scored 1 point.
Yeah. And
Why? What makes it so emotional for you to have that?
well, because they understood. But it was a hard moment because I said, I didn't want you to see that. I was trying to protect you from that. But here he was 18 and a senior year. And I was so glad it had been the timing on that it had been till he was more mature to see some of that. And he said, this is pretty like vulgar and grotesque and very sexually explicit and a lot of very inappropriate, just sexually explicit ways talking about sexual gratification, how to find it outside of relationship, outside of context. And he was mortified. And I had to hold on to my socks because he said, I want to talk about this at a school board meeting. Yes. And I thought, I'm terrified. I was like, it was perfectly fine when I was doing it. But now the next generation wanted to pick up the torch and do it. And I was like, oh, can we go back to when you minimized this and said it'll all be fine and we can just ignore it and it won't really, we can just skirt through and get to graduation and it'll be fine. I said, this is going to be a big deal if you do that. I've been speaking there for a while and they know who I am and they'll know who you are.
That dang Moms for Liberties kid.
Yes, exactly. And I said, I know you want identity. I said, I know you want to be your own person. And I know you want this to be yours and about you and your talking points on this, and you can, but they're going to come at you, for that. And they did. I got a message from the local press. Because I had been very mama bear with them, that kids, minors off the table,
Yeah.
And he was like, on the table. He's speaking. He's 18 and he's speaking at a board meeting. He's on the table. So, but we got through it. It was good. But proud mama moment. I mean, I just handing the torch to the next generation, watching him go up. And he actually concluded with an allegation of grooming. He said, either you look at your policy and you remove this book or you fix your policy. But if you don't do either, there's no other reason that you are just, I like to say, sexifying. Why are you sexifying the kids in this way? Said that to them. So, and just proud mama moment.
So the sexifying, I guess we're going to adopt that in this conversation.
The best way to put it.
Sexualization of kids, I think is how we usually say it. But sexifying kids, we have found All Boys Aren't Blue in an elementary school. And the author came at me and said I was lying. But our chapter chair in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, if you remember, found it in an elementary school.
Oh, they're in schools
totally
all over. I've looked in so many libraries across Lancaster, 17 separate school districts in one county. And I'll just take, a list of books and start running through the card catalog. And many of them are there. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're conferring what I'm trying to convey. And so the sexifying of children, would you consider that negative input to the level of teaching a child that they are bad and they are wrong? Like how is that destabilizing to them? And is it destabilizing to a country as a whole or just to them individually? How do you see that?
Yeah. Well, back to Erickson's stage of human development, as I mentioned, they're cumulative. So if you're successful in one stage, you're set up to have a better chance at being successful at the next stage. The reason I mention that is because after we come through adolescence and we have hopefully a strong, stable sense of identity, the next stage of life is, intimacy versus isolation. Do I know how to relate to other people? Do I know how to care about other people? Can I put other people first? Can I successfully form a family? And do I have inside of me and my ego structure what I need to give to another person, to sow into another person, to put my spouse first, to put my children first? Or am I in a narcissistic, hedonistic way just going to be pursuing pleasure after pleasure, sex outside of intimacy? And that leads to not stable, not long-term, not committed relationships. So it's setting them up to go right into problems in the next stage.
It's remarkable. And when you start making the connections to what's happening in our country overall, you have to wonder, is this part of a bigger plan? Are there some nefarious people that are pushing this to destabilize our country? Do they have different intentions and this is just a byproduct and fallout? And everybody's got their theories on that. And so what other things, I wonder, are happening to our children that are pouring the negativity into them? And I would say critical race theory. And for those that don't know what critical race theory is, it's dividing our children by the color of their skin, basically, and saying that if you're Black or brown, that you are oppressed, no matter what kind of family, what socioeconomic status you are. Just the color of your skin means you are oppressed. And if you're white, you are bad because you are an oppressor. And so what is that doing to the psyche of our children?
My. Well, I mean, just think about what you're saying. You are bad and you're an oppressor because you have white skin. I mean, we're telling you, that you are bad, and that's obviously not going to be good for anyone or their self-esteem. And I just want to be clear, it's okay to add in some mistakes that people have made, it's okay to talk about, hey, we had slavery here and in many parts of the world. As a matter of fact, slavery still exists today. And that's what I'm most concerned about is, modern day slavery. But they harp on this to the point of attack.
Well, that you 5 generations away from, not you personally, I don't know your ancestry, that a child today, 5 generations away from a slave owner that was white, who may or may not have been there 5 generations away, are accountable for the sins of 5 generations ago. And especially not even your family member. Like you could have come in from Norway or something last year, but because you are white, you have to be held accountable for the sins 5 generations ago in a country where you didn't even live. It's just preposterous.
It's wild because, like you mentioned, if you're white, well, what about the Irish slaves that were brought over to America? Things that don't fit their narrative have been dropped from the textbooks. So I didn't find out about Irish slaves until way later in life, through friends and family that brought this to my attention. But I would direct people to wall builders on this because they do such a fantastic job. And I love my historian friends. I have a friend who's an historian who's a huge wall builders fan, and they're the best to have around because they can they'll walk you through it all. If people have questions and they want to know their real history, their real heritage, I would say go to wall builders and get that, because that's where I learned it. And you want to learn from someone who, like when we're handing to the next generation, do they love you? Do they love America? Do they love your children? Or is there something dark inside of them that I hate to say it, but hate you, the color of your skin, the color of your child's skin, hate America? Are they looking to tear that down? Are they looking to whitewash all this good, amazing, beautiful stuff, miracles that happened in our history? Are they looking to hide that so that you don't see it, so that you think, your ancestors came over to have a compact, so just agree amongst themselves, not under God, but just, hey, we'll just do the right thing with each other. We'll just decide what's good and nice, Was that all it was? Or was there more meaning and purpose there? And then once all that's removed, that opens the door. Having that good information, it's a shield that protects us. So when something bad comes in, we can digest it and we can interpret it. We can pull it into our infrastructure. Okay, there's something that we're sorry about there. We're sorry this happened, or we shouldn't have done that. And a good sign of mental health is the ability to do that, to take constructive criticism. But we do that because we have an otherwise healthy, whole psyche, that we can incorporate that. And so that's all good and well, but we just have to be careful, because it's what they're pulling out. And that opens the door. I know a lot of chapter chairs are really good at talking about CRT, and I have a lot of concerns about social emotional learning, which is kind of CRT 2.0, and it opens the door to just circle back to that in a sneaky way. But yeah, we pull out the good, leaving the child as a blank slate, so that they can pour in some bad. It's for the purpose of destabilizing the individual and the nation, so that they can bring communism, Marxism in, and that people will foolishly, you're not going to think that's good unless you first believe America and its history is bad. If you know your history and you know the good and the virtuous things that are in it, you'd never want to throw it. I would never throw mine. Those seeds were planted early, and every American deserves to hear that. Every American deserves to hear their history, and it protects them. It's like a shield that when the lies come in, or they say, you know what, you shouldn't own your own land. We're going to get rid of that. You shouldn't have your own house. You'll be happier without it. They won't fall for that mess.
Yeah. So for those that, I just kind of want to recap.
Sorry, I threw out a lot there.
No, you're saying some great things, but the basis of this whole conversation is in your experience as a mental health counselor, when your identity is not formed properly and not with truth and not with good things pouring into you, you're not stable. You can't have relationships. You can't move forward. In a parallel way, America as a country, if we're not pouring into our children to understand our history and the good, and pour in the good and the truth, it's not going to be a stable country, and because they're not going to be able to have stable relationships. And we know that the basic unit of a good government is strong families. And that's based on strong relationships. And so the destabilization is happening on so many levels, between the sexification, as you called it, or the sexualization of our children, that seems to be very intently being poured into schools and public school libraries. Moms for Liberty doesn't get involved in community libraries and things of that nature for a very specific reason. We do not have access to our children in a public school library. We are not standing there with them to help pick out a book. We're not vetting. They have free access to whatever's in that library. So it's very concerning to us when there's books in there that are highly sexualized, pornographic, inappropriate. And so beat us up all day long, we're still going to bring this fight back to the school district. So you're destabilizing them and their ability to have strong relationships from the youngest ages through public school libraries. And then they are pouring into them negativity about their skin color, about the history of America, while they're taking out any of the good that was left.
Exactly.
Right? The story of why they came here, the religious persecution, how they were faithful people and believing in God. And so you've taken out the good, you've poured in the bad. And then we wonder why we see these kids now hating America, protesting on campuses, siding with our enemies, and in a lot of ways electing a communist.
In New York City.
And I believe there's 4 or 5 in the state legislature that are part of actually part of the Communist Party. And so why is that happening? I think Moms for Liberty has made the clear path and connection, and we understand that.
Well, and why is it happening? It's definitely not a mistake. If you look at, just search through, high school world history books, and how other nations are presented, if you look at Egypt, Russia, China, they will speak about their faith and their presence of their faith. Now, they're not saying, that you have to adopt the religion of Egypt when they're teaching it, and I'm not saying that either. But what I'm saying is you wouldn't go into any other nation, and we don't teach about any other nation and extract their history. We never teach religion
about Islamic countries
without mentioning that this is really important to them.
Exactly.
We don't do this to anybody else, but we're repeatedly doing it to America. So
it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
On what we see happening and unfolding in our
Yeah.
country. And, you can lay it at the feet of a lot of people and organizations. I'm going to go ahead and lay it at the feet of the teachers unions. And it's the way Moms for Liberty, it's the reason Moms for Liberty fights the way we do, because they've been in control of public education for decades. So who else can be held accountable for this? They are the ones sitting on school boards because that's what they're focused on, from everything from moving elections to off cycles in so many communities so that they can just have their people vote to get people on school boards so that they can control all of this, the voting in the curriculum, voting in the books. Like it's just, we are up against a beast.
Yeah.
And we're not going to stop anytime soon fighting that beast.
No.
So thank you for being a chapter chair and serving in this capacity and using all the knowledge that you've been gaining to better your community and your family and your home and our organization. I do want to kind of switch channels here for a minute and talk about your children. You're a mom, of course. How many children do you have?
2, twin mom.
They're twins?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I won the BOGO, the buy one, get one.
Which may have been fun when they were like 7 or 8, but I don't know when they're infants. And I see moms with 2 tiny babies. I don't know how they manage that at all.
It was wonderful. I loved when they were little.
Oh, it's so
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
And so what has been the education experience for your 2 children?
Sure. So totally different, the people say they're identical or fraternal. They're opposite. They're so different in every way. One would love to be outside. One would want to be inside all the time. One has, one a bicycle, anything with wheels. One nose in a book. That's the one that was in the library. So, but my other son is special needs, and that's where I learned a lot, and that's where I had more of my upsetting experiences as a mom and a chapter chair that led me to want to be a chapter chair, was in trying to work with the school district to get his basic needs met. And when COVID hit and we had the parent over shoulder experiences, I saw what they were teaching him, and he was so completely just disengaged. I went in, our school runs this, they thought it was very cool, coffee shop, and it was featured in the local newspaper, and he was completely disengaged. He had no idea what was happening. And when we started getting involved, he couldn't add 2 + 2.
In what grade? How
8th
old?
grade.
Wow.
And he is in life skills, but that was low even for life skills.
What's life skills? I don't know that everybody knows what life skills is.
Like you have your honors and AP classes and your gen ed, and then you have, if they just have a little bit of special needs and need a little extra help, and then life skills is like, we need a lot of help.
So old
learning,
old name special ed, now life skills. Is that
definitely special ed?
Okay,
Yeah,
got it.
definitely special ed. Yeah, it's a certain level of classroom within the special ed system.
Okay.
So could not tie his shoes, could not button his pants, could not add 2 + 2 in 8th grade. And I had seen him through so much. When he was born, we went through some stuff, and he, I almost broke my back almost. I had slipped a thoracic disc, teaching him how to walk, because he was a late walker. And when he did walk, the doctors were incredulous that he even did walk. And they were like, he's walking?
Yeah.
So I've always known, stay with him, work with him, just do the one-to-one. So I kept talking to the school, and I kept saying things like, he had occupational therapy, he had speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, wonderful resources, all provided through the school. So you would think this would be great. And I could not get them to work on shoe tying in occupational therapy. Occupational therapy, we were focused on dexterity and fine motor skills, just to help bridge the gap there for some folks that might not know.
Folks like me that might not know.
Like, what are you talking about, right? So we're there in occupational therapy to be working on these things, and they wouldn't work on shoe tying. And when I would go in and talk to the school, I just remember being talked at.
Yeah, a lot of parents feel that way.
Yes. And sometimes they would try to say things to just kind of pat you on your head and string you along. And I realized after going back tenaciously that they weren't going to listen to me. And they didn't consider it a problem that he couldn't add or he couldn't read. And they had him on a calculator. And I said, I don't want him doing a calculator. I want him learning basic math, basic principles of math. For example, he would add, 8 and 9 and come up with 1 million and blah, 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 right? So he had no idea of place value, singles, tens, hundreds, no basic math skills. Reading, I think we were still finishing an alphabet letter or two, kindergarten level reading. It was not good. I kept coming to the school, kept talking to them. Finally, I said, I'm gonna pull him. I prayed on it, and I heard about cyber, and some people spoke, negatively about cyber, and we've always, talked to God, pray on it, blaze our own trail.
Cyber, so online school?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I pulled him and took him there, and I was very scared, but it was the best thing we ever did. It really was.
Really?
Yeah.
Because for most of us out there, when our
Yeah.
kids got thrown to online school during
Yeah.
COVID, it was a complete nightmare.
Yeah.
So why was it such a good experience for you? And is it
Yeah.
an excellent program, just a good fit for him? Like what?
All the above. When I found that when I spoke to them about my concerns, I wasn't getting talked at, and I wasn't getting just patted on the head to get me out the door and get me to just be calm and nice and just allow things
So
to
is it
continue to happen.
special education life skills
Still is.
online school?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. You can do all that. Now, for him personally, it was better because of his autism to just be he's always loved electronics, to just be in the comfort of his own home without all the chaos. So many classrooms in our public schools are very chaotic,
Yeah.
very busy, overpopulated. Some of what we're asking our kids to do, we got to stop and think, like back with the masking, people would say, oh, I mask at work, so my kids can mask at school. I said, no. You need to mask like a kid, because they have a teacher here, an assistant here, another para over there, a couple of TSSs. They have a full room, and there's never not eyes on them. So if you watch people at work, they would go around the corner and get rid of some carbon dioxide and let some oxygen in,
Yeah.
and then put it back up. The kids couldn't do that. So you're talking 8, 9, 10. Some kids are from, breakfast to
Yeah.
after school.
Yeah, that was a very
Yeah.
dark period. So he gets
Yeah.
to do school at home, and
He gets to do
just
school
like
at
how
home.
did that worked out well for you?
It was wonderful.
Why? I mean, so he's not distracted. That was
He's
one
not
thing.
distracted. He's in the comfort of his own room, but they were wonderful as well. And that's why I would encourage people, look at school choice. Choice is a good thing. We have some options here.
Mhm.
Public school, all the crowded room, all the people, the different conversations going on at the same time, other therapists being in the room trying to do
It
too
was
much.
your online school still public school through your public school program?
No,
Oh,
I did not trust them with that because of the way they still were not handling
so it was private school?
my concerns. So in Pennsylvania, we have a few charter schools that parents can choose from.
Okay.
So, and they take funding from where my tax dollars go.
Yeah, it's still
for
a
the
public school, then it's a public charter, but it's
Mhm.
not part of your
Yeah,
traditional system.
Exactly. And that a little good old fashioned competition. And so funding was taken
Yeah.
from there to cyber, and it really met our needs. And he's at the third grade, went from kindergarten to third grade level.
Amazing.
Yeah, reading
Yeah.
and math, third grade level.
Just from switching his
Yep.
school
They
and his
gave him
mode of teaching.
a 1-to-1, which has been wonderful. And so he actually got a few extra hours of tutoring, and they wouldn't do that in the
Traditional.
regular, the brick
Yeah.
and mortar public school. He's fine. It's fine. We'll just keep pushing him through. And he was really disengaged. And when I got to cyber, they said, we're going to do an evaluation. We're going to assess him. And then they said, we're really concerned because he's actually behind even for the special needs class. He's not where he should be. And within a pretty short period of time, up 3 grade levels.
Good for you, Mom. I think we hear stories like this a lot, though. You have to find the right fit for your child. And
Yes.
sometimes it's different types of schools over a period of time. Sometimes it's public school for 12 years. Sometimes it's
Yes.
private school for 12 years. And
Yes.
so my kids, we've kind of done hybrid different things at different periods of times to help them
Yes.
excel. And you just have to be an engaged
Yeah.
parent. And
Yeah.
I
And
would
know
say,
what's best for your child.
yeah,
It
pray
wasn't the
over
right
it
fit for
too,
my
right?
for his twin.
Yeah,
But it's good to have choices,
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
All right. Let's wrap this up. Now we're closing in on the hour, talking a little bit about being a chapter chair.
Mm.
How long have you been a chapter chair?
since basically the beginning.
You've been around a long time.
Yeah. There's 5 Christmas ornaments on my tree.
Yes, I think that's how you tell. Like
That's how you tell. Yeah,
that's
the badges.
Yeah, I was like, maybe we should do a pin system. For
Yeah,
those that have been
yeah,
around 5 years, but we don't really need it. We have an ornament system for those that have been around. We do. For those that don't know, we have Christmas ornaments. I bet we still have some left from 2025, probably on discount in the store, momsforliberty.org. And what's been your best experience as a chapter leader, and what's been your worst experience as a chapter leader?
There's so many to pick from.
The absolute best, like a
Yeah.
moment of you're like, this is why I spend time volunteering in this role.
Yeah. Well, I definitely loved our Patriot Party in the park that we did. We had so much fun. We had a few legislators that came out to speak. We had a friend of mine dressed up. We got an Uncle Sam costume from a local theater costume rental place. We had Uncle Sam come. He read you and your children's book with you and Tiffany wrote.
Oh, he read Living Justice.
Yes.
Uncle Sam read Living Justice. That's great. I love it.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, just everyone coming together like that. That sense of community. There aren't a lot of organizations that do what we do, that people can get out and just have a picnic, have some good food, have a good time with Uncle Sam, bring everybody together. The relationships are the best. Some of our voting members have been with us for a long time, since the beginning. And those friendships that are formed, I don't think they're ever going to go away. You know?
I think we've all made some lifelong friends. One of them I was chatting with this morning, and she said something about, I have sisters.
Yeah.
And you're one of them, or you're like one of, like, it's we've forged some really close relationships. I would say. And so, do you want to do worst experience?
Do you want to do that?
Do you want to skip over
Sure.
that? Yeah.
We'll do it.
We'll wrap up on worst experience.
And then maybe I can leave with a hope that that'll get better.
The worst experience.
It hurts to talk about. The pastors were the worst experience. They were
we need a whole nother hour to talk about pastors, I think.
It's awful. We had some of the local parents in the district that I'm in had even really reached out to the pastors to try to pull them into what was going on, what was happening in the schools, the sexification of the kids, the inappropriate books, questioning what's in the curriculum, like help us, let us. We understand you don't know or wouldn't believe it. That's where most people are at when we get that. But come in and have us sit down with us. Let us share some of these documents with you. Let's talk about it and help us. And they did that. A wonderful parent recruited a bunch of local pastors. A bunch of us parents came. And we all got together and had a conversation. And I would love to have a happy ending on that. And hopefully someday I will. That particular conversation, it was not good. They, I would say Pharisees. It was bad.
Why do you think that is? I mean, we hear that the pastors, you hear a lot in, I would say, the conservative movement, those that are feeling like we're trying to save our country are calling out pastors a lot lately, saying you need to step
into the gap. That's what you're here for.
And so they're not doing that for some reason.
Most of them. There's a few.
There's some that are rock stars, but why do you think they're avoiding it?
They haven't read the Doctrine of the Lesser Magistrate, for one. There are globalist forces as we live in this modern age. We're all coming together, and there's associations that are national and international. And so I think pastors aren't different than anyone else in that they want to be a part of something bigger, but it's very easy for nefarious forces to get in there and to send troubling messages. Don't get involved. Don't say certain things. Don't say anything that could be construed as political, or you'll lose your 501c3.
It's fear. So I think you can just sum all that up, that pastors are afraid to get involved in activism in their community.
It's not a crime to lose your 501c3. You lose your money. If you just don't be that status, then give up your, if 23% is your price, that's what it costs to get you to not preach the word of God or not speak truth or not say what's right, that's a problem.
We're going to clip that for later for an after show. If we want to give them some credit here,
Yes,
but
absolutely.
still call them fearful.
Yes.
I would say maybe it's not even about money sometimes.
Yeah.
But
Fear.
They have a fear and a distorted view of, the toxic empathy people talk about. Like
Yeah.
they think that their job is only to
Yeah.
support and love and build people up.
Yeah.
And they forget about that speaking truth, even when it's hard part of their job.
And I think they have a fear of losing their congregation, which is fair.
Yeah.
And we as a people need to do a better job. And that's where I kind of come in as a chapter chair and try to talk to the people about what's our duty and how should we be behaving. We could be less twitchy. If a pastor says something we don't like, if we could not freak out, go off on him and leave the church immediately, talk to your pastor, hug your pastor, embrace him. Say, I know you think this isn't happening in the schools, but please take a look at it. Please consider it. They're your pastor. Work with them. He works with you.
Yeah, I love it. So less twitchy. We're actually going to end there because we at Moms for Liberty call ourselves joyful warriors.
Yes.
Joyful warriors for a lot of reasons.
Yes.
One, so we can be less twitchy. I've never referred to it that way. What does being a joyful warrior mean to you?
Well, that goes back to my faith and my beliefs, because there's so many good scriptures about joy and being a joyful warrior. And it just means that God is with us. For me, that's what it means.
God is with you.
God is with us.
In your activism, standing up for America. And
Yes.
so we're going to wrap that up today's episode, our first day back in 2026, celebrating America 250, celebrating Moms for Liberty 5th anniversary with Rachel Wilson Snyder from Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, our chapter chair there. I'm Tina Deskovich, CEO and co-founder of Moms for Liberty. We hope you'll join us next week. And I think we have Jamie Hinkle next week, who is the most apprehensive guest ever.
Aww.
She is trying every way to Tuesday to get out of prayer. I'm looking forward to the conversation with her. Please follow us on all our social sites. Please subscribe to this podcast on Apple or Spotify, and share it with a friend. And especially if you enjoyed this episode. Thank you and have a great week.